What would happen if there was a book that was so harmful and so controversial that it had to be removed from the books of history? In order to bury it, why would somebody go to such great lengths? And maybe more crucially, what information does this book expose that would otherwise remain hidden from the public? The Book of Jubilees is an ancient manuscript that has been hidden in silence, removed from mainstream religious teachings, and even prohibited by various authorities. Today, we are revealing the mysteries surrounding this work. This is not only a piece of history that has been lost to time, rather, it is a piece of writing that has the potential to shake the very foundations of what many people consider to be true. There is more to the Book of Jubilees than merely retelling the events that you might already be familiar with. It was written more than 2,000 years ago. It rewrites them in a bold manner. There are details regarding the creation of the universe, the lives of Adam, Noah, and other biblical figures, and even a cosmic calendar that calls into question the one that we follow today. The pages of this book purport to contain the genuine timeline of human history. However, this unique old text is not like any other. It is the courage with which it contradicts traditional teachings that distinguishes it from other approaches and makes it so controversial. The alternate account of events that it presents is not only unfamiliar, rather, it is disturbing and even dangerous. However, why was it taken away? The book, according to the beliefs of some individuals, was seen to represent a danger to the authority structures of early religious institutions, due to the fact that its teachings and timelines did not coincide with the narratives that the leaders desired to promote. Permitting it to circulate may have resulted in the leaders losing control of the situation. Some people believe that the substance of the book was just too radical. They contend that it described angels and other celestial entities in a manner that blurred the borders between the divine and the human, and that it offered interpretations of morality and law that were in conflict with the teachings that were generally accepted. However, there is an additional notion that adds an even more sinister dimension to this riddle. There is the possibility that the Book of Jubilees includes information that mankind was not prepared to comprehend or was not even intended to comprehend. Was it prohibited in order to safeguard individuals, or was it repressed in order to maintain the authority that was held by a small group of individuals? There are a lot of questions that are brought up by this text the more you look into it. An example of this would be the book's comprehensive narrative of creation, which spans specific eras and was written with the intention of redefining how people understood the beginning of the material universe. In addition to this, it presents laws that are not found in any other religious books or the Bible, some of which are completely original. Then there is the perspective that it takes on angels, which describes them not only as divine entities but also as direct influencers of the history of humanity. In a word, these concepts were daring to say the least. They could have posed a threat to those who held positions of authority. The question of whether or not this book should be included in the divine book was debated exhaustively by entire councils, and in the end, it was rejected. However, here's the thing. The process of erasing a sentence frequently conveys more information about the significance of the text than the text itself does. If the Book of Jubilees was nothing more than a compilation of stories or interpretations that were not harmful, then why was it repressed with such a profound level of force? What was the purpose of the purposeful concealment of it? What is arguably the most intriguing question is, to what extent has the content of this book shaped our understanding of the history of religion without our even being aware of it? As a result of reading the Book of Jubilees, we are left with more confusion than answers. It was simply too far ahead of its time, was it? Was it an attempt to change the history of the times? On the other hand, does it include facts that some people thought would turn the world as we know it upside down? It's possible that the truth is concealed within its pages, or inside the reasons why it was suppressed. In any event, there is one thing that can be said with absolute certainty. When something is prohibited, there is almost never a reason for it. Prepared to ponder the reasons behind the concealment of this book and the information that it might disclose? Do you ever find yourself wondering why certain ancient books are elevated to the status of divine while others are ignored or even omitted from history? One of these writings is called the Book of Jubilees, and it is an ancient manuscript that rewrites well-known stories while remaining hidden from public view. What is it about this book that makes it so unusual that it was previously admired but was finally removed from the canon of recognized religious texts? A significant amount of influence from Greek and Roman philosophies was exerted on Jewish culture during the time period in which the Book of Jubilees was written, which was about the 2nd century BCE. This ancient Jewish work, which is often referred to as the Little Genesis, and is thought to have originated from oral traditions and previous sacred books. It is considered to be a component of the Jewish canon. Its ambition is what sets it unique from other scriptures. Rather than simply summarizing previously told stories, it seeks to present the complete version by doing things like filling in gaps and adding elements that are not found in other scriptures. There is a comprehensive account of the events that take place in the books of Genesis and Exodus that may be found inside its pages. However, these are not the ones that you have heard in the past. An example of this would be the thorough chronicle of the creation of the world, which provides a precise timeline that is divided into jubilees, which are approximately 49-year cycles. The lunar calendar that was typically utilized in traditional Judaism was directly challenged by this one-of-a-kind calendar system, which played a pivotal role in the story's narrative. The book goes further into lesser-known myths, such as enlarged accounts of Adam and Eve, the Watchers, who were angels who descended to earth, and the Nephilim, who were their descendants. These components cause the distinctions between divine entities and human beings to become more hazy, which in turn raises problems about the limits of spirituality and that of mortal life. Even the regulations that are offered in the Book of Jubilees are very different from those that are found in the Torah. It introduces behaviors and commandments that are not in accordance with the religious beliefs that are generally accepted by the Jewish community. However, why was it not included? Early religious authorities did not acknowledge the Book of Jubilees as a canonical text. In contrast to the Torah and the Bible, both of which are universally recognized as canonical texts, it was in conflict with the ever-evolving theological teachings. It questioned the authority of the books that were considered to be the norm, and it presented interpretations that were regarded as being too controversial or irreconcilable. This book has been passed down through Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity and a few other communities for generations, but it has remained virtually unknown to the rest of the world. It has only been preserved in fragments. It is not only the material that is controversial, but also the fact that it is not included. What would be the rationale behind the rejection of a text that is so deeply steeped in the same traditions as the Bible? It was too groundbreaking for the time it was released. Or did its alternative interpretations pose a danger to the authority of those who were responsible for determining what would be regarded as sacred content? Despite the fact that these issues have not been answered, one thing is very clear. The Book of Jubilees provides a glimpse into a version of history that the majority of the world was never intended to view. It would be interesting if there was a book that not only recounted the narrative of creation, but also attempted to rewrite it from the ground up. The Book of Jubilees does not just follow the events that are contained in the Bible, rather, it reimagines them and introduces ideas that contradict everything that we believe we know about the origins of humanity, morality, and the divine order. The timeline of its genesis is one of the most outstanding elements of this document. According to the Book of Jubilees, the universe was not formed in the manner that is present in Genesis, which is characterized by a lack of clarity. In its place, it methodically maps out every occurrence by employing a system of jubilees, which are cycles that last for 49 years. It asserts that this system provides the accurate chronology of the planet. Everything is ensconced inside this rigorous holy calendar, beginning with the moment of creation and continuing on to significant events such as the flood and the administration of the law to Moses. But why is there such a high level of precision? A number of academics are of the opinion that this calendar was designed with the intention of challenging the authority of the traditional Jewish lunar calendar, which would make it a direct contradiction to the established religious rituals. Another aspect of it is that it portrays angels and demons, which are heavenly beings that are not merely viewing humanity but are actively influencing its future. The book tells the story of a group of angels who are referred to as the Watchers. These angels descended to earth and started causing problems for humanity, which ultimately resulted in the creation of the Nephilim, a race of giants. Jubilees presents a universe in which supernatural beings routinely cross barriers into the realm of humanity. This event is addressed briefly in Genesis, but it is expanded upon in Jubilees. The book portrays them as both defenders and corruptors, blurring the borders between good and evil in ways that traditional texts avoid. Their involvement is not always benevolent. The book portrays them as both. The Book of Jubilees does not merely summarize unusual occurrences, it goes beyond that. In addition to this, it outlines regulations and behaviors that are fundamentally different from the teachings of the majority of religions. For instance, It provides stringent interpretations of Sabbath regulations, dietary restrictions, and ceremonies that are more closely aligned with the traditions of priests than they are with the more general behaviors of Jews or Christians. However, despite the fact that these regulations are portrayed as divine instructions, their precision and rigorous nature frequently come into conflict with the recommendations that are more commonly accepted in the Torah. In light of this, the question arises as to whether or not the Book of Jubilees rewrote the creation myth in order to construct its own interpretation of divine power. Alternatively, was it an attempt to shake up the entrenched power structures that existed at that era? This book does not merely narrate stories. Rather, it takes a stance, providing a view of the universe in which divine order is perceived to be significantly more complicated and possibly more complex than what is suggested by traditional literature. It is quite possible that the religious authorities of the time regarded its daring assertions about angels having an influence on human affairs, its alternative timeline of creation, and its stringent penal codes as being excessively extreme and even menacing. The Book of Jubilees became not only a text but also a symbol of rebellion, since it questioned the foundations of divine authority and challenged the accepted narratives. It was an artifact of forbidden knowledge that was never intended to be read or comprehended by a large number of people. The creators of this work have the intention of revealing a more profound reality about the relationship that humanity has with the divine. Or was this book a symbol of disobedience against the ecclesiastical authority that existed at that time period? Despite the fact that these issues have not been resolved, one thing is very clear. The Book of Jubilees provides a viewpoint on the sacred that is both intriguing and fascinating. What could possibly justify the complete prohibition of a book that is so firmly based in ancient traditions, one that expands on stories that are already treasured in sacred texts? Not only was the Book of Jubilees disregarded, but it was also purposefully omitted from the canon of sacred texts that are generally recognized by the religious community. In addition to revealing information about the authorities who attempted to conceal the book, the reasons for this decision may also reveal information about the book itself. One of the primary reasons for its rejection is that it was in direct opposition to the ideals that were prevalent in the early church. At a time when religious authorities were seeking to consolidate control and clarify theology, the Book of Jubilees stood out as a problem that needed to be addressed. The narratives that those in authority were attempting to promote were challenged by its alternative time frame for creation, precise regulations, and enlarged legends about angels, devils, and human origins. Due to the fact that the content of this document called into doubt the divine authority of the scriptures that they considered to be sacred, the inclusion of this text in the canon could have caused the fragile unity that they were working to construct to be shattered. In addition to this, the book was politically inconvenient. Controlling the narrative was something that was absolutely necessary in the early year of the growth of religion in order to keep one's influence over the expanding communities of believers. It was a theological rebellion that the Book of Jubilees represented because of its emphasis on rigorous legalism, its alternative calendar system, and its provocative interpretations of human and divine connections. By accepting it, the leaders who were forming what would later become mainstream Judaism and Christianity could have had their authority weakened, which would have been a negative consequence. Then there is the disquieting thought that continues to this day, which is the fear of what the Book of Jubilees might reveal. Certain individuals are of the opinion that the book contains truths regarding the beginnings of humanity, celestial entities, and divine order that the early leaders of the world believed the world was not yet prepared to hear. A cosmology that questions traditional ideas of a perfectly ordered creation is hinted at by the fact that it places a greater emphasis on angelic interventions and the ramifications those interventions have had for human historians. Would it have been possible that the suppression of this notion was an attempt to shield believers from ideas that could potentially undermine their faith? Alternately, was it an attempt to maintain the exclusivity of specific information among a select few? Irrespective of whether the book was deemed excessively radical, excessively hazardous, or merely inconvenient, the fact that it was not included begs an important question. Was this censorship or protection? It is possible that religious councils asserted that they were protecting individuals from heretical ideas. Yet, there are many who contend that they were actually consolidating authority by restricting access to knowledge. In any case, the decision to prohibit the Book of Jubilees merely serves to bolster the mystery surrounding it. Fragments of the book were recovered many centuries later, but the exact nature of the book's influence is still completely unknown. Did the early leaders safeguard the survival of their own interpretations by putting an end to this text? Or did they bury something that was much more profound? Something that humanity was not intended to see? The answer may be lost to history. But there is one thing that can be said with absolute certainty. The decision to prohibit the Book of Jubilees is a clear indication of the dread and power that is associated with its contents. The Book of Jubilees is regarded by academics in the modern era with a combination of interest and skepticism. An ancient text that uncovers a hidden chapter of history and sheds light on the early beliefs and practices of Judaism is considered by some to be one of the most valuable treasures that has ever been lost. Some people consider it to be nothing more than mythology, which is a collection of stories that are intriguing but not supported by evidence and that never fully fit into the larger narrative established by Scripture. On the other hand, the riddles contained inside the book continue to captivate minds all over the world, regardless of how they are interpreted. Beyond the realm of theological studies, the Book of Jubilees has gained popularity over the course of time. Those who are interested in conspiracies and alternative histories have constructed their own hypotheses based on the contents of the book. There are others who believe that the verses of this book may contain secret codes, symbolic messages, or information that is not easily understood. Is it possible that the book contains a more profound meaning, that contains information that sheds light on the true origins of humanity? It is possible that the book holds the key to understanding a forgotten section of our history, a part that has been purposefully obscured until now. Then there are the most extreme theories, which are concepts that have established themselves as a mainstay in the thoughts of a number of contemporary intellectuals. There are many who believe that the Book of Jubilees is not simply a record of human history, but could also contain references to extraterrestrial life. These individuals are known as conspiracy theorists. What if the heavenly beings that are referred to as the Watchers in the book are actually extraterrestrial visitors that are influencing our evolution? The concept strikes a chord with individuals who are of the opinion that the origins of humanity are not as straightforward as we have been instructed to assume. However, despite the fact that fringe theorists continue to hypothesize and contemporary researchers continue to dispute its significance, there is one concern that continues to lurk in the background. What if the truth is still concealed in plain sight? In the event that the Book of Jubilees is the key to unlocking knowledge that we are not yet prepared to comprehend, what possibilities do we have? As long as these questions are not answered, the book will continue to pique our interest and encourage us to reevaluate everything that we believed we knew about our history. When we consider the Book of Jubilees, it becomes abundantly evident that this ancient work produces a greater number of questions than it does solutions. But there is one thing that is certain. The simple fact that it exists calls into question all that we believed we knew about the past, religion, and the supernatural. And why was it prohibited? In what ways may it conceal information that we have determined to be too risky for us to expose? It is possible that the truth regarding the Book of Jubilees will never be known, but the controversy that it has sparked is not yet ended. So, what are your thoughts on this matter? Was it prohibited for our own safety, or is this information too powerful for us to deal with? And feel free to leave your ideas in the comment section below, and together we can continue the debate.